Is Andrew Webster the right coach for the New Zealand Warriors? We're going to break that down today from information and a discussion he had with Sean Johnson on the League Lounge earlier this week. We're going to deep dive into some of the really cool things he shared about his coaching journey, where he stacks up amongst the biggest, best coaches at the Warriors, what are his core values, his four principles, and will ultimately he bring success to the New Zealand Warriors by bringing a premiership home, but more importantly, creating stability for a club that has such instability throughout its years. We're going to break that down for you right now, but please, before we start, give us a like and subscribe to Wires Up TV for more Warriors content and Pacific Championships content. Look, we're going to start off by looking at Webby's coaching journey. Sorry, it was an awesome thing to hear him talk about it with SJ, and SJ pretty much break down the timeline of Webby. Started off at Balmain Tigers and Parramatta Eels as a back row, I believe, maybe a 5'8", the ball playing 5'8". He kind of knew that his career wasn't going to be in playing the game, but he wanted to be a coach and believed that he would be a good coach. He then went to the Connecticut Wildcats, where he said, I pretty much went there, with this big philosophy on how to coach and how to teach, and in the end, he just ended up taking to the pub. I think what he infers by that is saying, like, he learned, just it's some places that you go to, probably a place like America, you might want to bring all your new style, your NRL, your Australian experience, but really, those players at that level, it's just man-to-man management. And maybe that's where he started to build his relationships with people. Going to America, going to a new culture, experiencing new things would be pretty cool just to see, a different culture and get to know people. I think we're starting to see his man management skills growing as we go along in this journey. Then he finds himself in 2006 at Hull Kingston Rovers. Guess under who? Justin Morgan, former Warriors assistant coach. I know a lot of us have been anti-Morgan. That doesn't reflect so much on Webby, but that was his starting of his coaching journey, helping get Hull Kingston Rovers promoted. He said he used to sweep and tidy up the stadium to get extra money while he was over there visiting with his brother. He ended up staying for 6 years, and he started under Morgs, who is an ex-Warriors player. So we can start to see some of the principles adding up, that connection to Ando maybe, from Morgan to Webster. Now he goes over to head coach 6 years after being at Hull KR. He goes to Balmain Tiger SG Ball, brings a title for the first time in 30 years there, and is deemed successful, and then gets a head coach at the Parramatta Eels NYC team. Now, he said when he went to Parramatta that he kind of copied and pasted everything that went at West Tigers, and it failed. It bombed, he said. Now, that's a good learning for a coach early in his coaching career to realize you have to adapt, and maybe that's another learning as part of Webby's learning is that he needs to adapt to the players or to the situation. And so he had not so much success there, but it seemed as though what he intended didn't necessarily work out that way. Then he gets what we know him as in the 2015 becomes an assistant coach under Andrew McFadden. That's where we start to hear about where we know about Webby and his influence. And he believes that that team was slightly unsuccessful, could have done better, but ultimately it adds to his love and passion for New Zealand. As soon as he got to New Zealand, it says from his discussion with SJ, that's when he fell in love with the country, with the people, understanding the culture, which then will add to later down the track his journey here as a head coach. Then we go assistant coach to Wedge Tigers under Ivan there. So that's his connection to Ivan. It starts to build that there. And then he finds himself at Parramatta. Now, from his discussions, he said that Parramatta taught him more than what he gave to Parramatta. The proviso for him was just to add a few wrinkles to the offense, keep pretty much everything the same, but nonetheless, 2 premierships at his time at the Penrith Panthers under Ivan. So we're seeing that Warriors connection all the way through from Ivan to Justin Morgan. I forgot to mention that he was under Ricky Stewart. We'll get to that very soon at Parramatta. But we're starting to build the storyline for Webby and the connections to the Warriors' job here at the end of 22, but really start of 23. And you can see Ivan and the conversations with Cam George that started to happen. Now we're going to break down his coaching tree. I know a coaching tree is generically used in an NFL term, but these are the coaches that he's worked with or been under and has guided him in his journey. As like you say, there's bullet points underneath that. Justin Morgan, Ricky Stewart worked as an NYC coach under him. He said he learned a lot from Sticky, and I'm imagining how Sticky backs his players, backs his as a man known for his man management. I'm imagining Webby got a bit of that rub off on him there, backing the players, supporting the players, believing in your players in the media, standing up for your players. Under Andrew McFadden, again, learning his trade. He said he learned a lot from Cappy. They didn't achieve what they wanted to, but it definitely planted the seeds for his journey back here. But now that Andrew McFadden is under recruitment and development, you're starting to see that connection, at least to the Warriors. It starts to become a smaller and smaller world. Then under Ivan Cleary, we see that he had 2 stints under Ivan, and he just confirmed his views there. What he saw at the Panthers, and this I want to highlight as important, is something that he saw there that confirmed what he believed rugby league and how you build a team is. And we're going to look at those values just really quickly. But that is his coaching tree right there. And you see the influence, specifically Ivan. Sticky was in there a little bit, McFadden, Morgan. He's built a series of, his CV is built off of being around head coaches and learning the game from them and continually applying and adding to his craft. This isn't a Benji Marshall who's come straight from a playing career into a coaching role. This is a coach in Webby that's really built his apprenticeship across the globe, in the UK and in America, and really honed his craft and built his identity. And that peaked with his time at the Panthers and realizing that that was the way forward. What he learned at the Panthers and what affirmed what he believed in was the culture and community. He believes heavily in building the right culture, building the community, building good people. A lot of what he discussed when he went to the Warriors was that he didn't actually want to get rid of a whole bunch of players. He just wanted the players to buy in and go on the journey with him. And if they wanted to do that, then he was happy to keep them. That's why you go back to saying that Webby, to do what he did without any of his players that he recruited. I believe Tamati Martin was the only one that was signed under Webby in that first stint. I might be forgetting, but everyone was already signed under Nathan Brown or previously by Cam George. And he didn't want to get rid of anyone. He said simply, if they want to be part of this journey, then if they buy in, then they're welcome to stay. And look what he was able to do, achieve a prelim in that first year. But building, the culture, the barbecues on the Friday afternoon, building the community inside, making sure the people that are at the club are good people. He doesn't want any of the kids. He doesn't want anyone that isn't focused on football and family. He believes in work ethic. You have to work hard, as a testament to his pre-seasons. Everyone that's in the building, we have let go of players that didn't meet that criteria early on. They were cut, but he's built the right places and developed players that have that, and builds confidence in players. For one thing for sure, he's been able to build the confidence in players to achieve beyond what they could dream of. Jackson Ford, no one knew about him, but he turned Jackson Ford into a regular NRL starter. He turned the halves, Sean, that was a great, stellar halfback, created a consistency out of him in a year that we never thought possible towards the twilight of his career. Everyone, all the halfbacks that have been in the system have benefited. Like Luke Metcalf, even Tamati Martin with 15 assists over 6 or 7 games, benefited from Webby's coaching and structure. So there has been a lot of growth, a lot of development under his tenure. Now we're just going to compare him quickly up against the likes of our best coaches. Ando, one of the first coaches to really change the culture of the club and develop talent and bring that beautiful Polynesian football style with grit and hard work, with the right balance of recruitment and the right balance of development players, was one of the most successful coaches in our tenure. 4 years, 91 games, 55% win rate, 3 final series, 2 prelims, 1 grand final, also 1 minor premiership. That's pretty good record until the wheels fell off, obviously. Ivan, likewise, 2006 to 2011, 6 years, 154 games, 50% win rate, 4 final series, 1 prelim, 1 grand final loss. And now we know what Ivan went on to do once he got into the place, specifically Penrith, and developed things how he wanted to have them developed there and the success they've had. Now Webby, 76 games, 53% win rate, 2 final series, and 1 prelim. He's on the trajectory to be at their level, or at least competing to be the best coach in Warriors history. Now, where does that leave us? I think the future is bright under Webby. He has proven that he can get the best out of the tools that he has. He lost a lot of players this year. He lost, some experience in Tohu and Dylan and Sean retired, and he was still able to pick up the pieces. He was still able to work with the squad he can. I believe squad-wise, Webby can work with pretty much anyone. What I would love for him is to have more talent at his disposal. But I think ultimately he's a fantastic coach. And I believe as soon as we had that Cronulla game that we're moving in the right direction with Webby. Few criticisms of him probably has been at times. 2024, the offense was very stale. Everyone knows about that. We still lack points this year overall. So attacking wise, the evolution of our game still seems to be not to the level. You could argue that's the movie system, or you could argue that's talent in terms of the X factor of players, etc. Defensively, had a poor year in 24, but picked up again defensively this year. Was again no doubt in the top four as it was in 23. Got to a home final this year. Had a prelim in 23, and you're thinking, look, that's a pretty good resume. My thing for Webby is I think he'll continue to be successful. He'll continue to turn, players that were off, cast offs, and make them solid players. He'll turn development players into consistent players. But will the club back him at times to get those X factor, to get those players that will take you to the next level? I think Webby could be even better if he had some better quality players in certain positions at his disposal. But for this, as a club, this is the most stable we've been since Ivan Cleary, since Daniel Anderson. So this is a really good period for us as a fan base. But what we want to see is progress moving forward. We don't want Webby to stall here. We want him to be even better and be given the tools necessary to be successful. But as you can see, his journey has been far and wide. He comes with a lot of experience. I thought last year he took a bit of a hit in the media, the consistent losses. This year as well, towards the end of the season, there are parts of his, I believe, injuries do start to pile on towards the back end of season, and that's natural. But the grinded out style does get to the playing group by the end of the season, and you start to see a bit more of that fatigue set in. I would like to see him get a bit more backing in that space, continue to develop and produce the players that he's producing. But I think he's a very, very good coach. I think anyone that's saying he isn't, really need to look at our history and say, look, he's got the most stability of us. Now, it's not just him. It's Andrew McFadden. It's the ownership in Robbo. We've built the first time in our history. We've got the Herald's mats, the SG boards, the Jersey flag, all the levels. Now we've got the Wahine. We're building our base over in Logan. We're expanding our horizons. It doesn't look like we're slowing down. So I have to give a lot of credit to the men that pay the bills in Robbo. But that team at the moment seems to be working. They're getting most of the development selections as good as possible. So the support staff around him are getting better. But for Webby as a coach and his impact on the Warriors, I think he's been absolutely awesome. He's one of the best communicating coaches I've found, who is kind of clear. He does hide at times a bit of information or redirect, but he's very good at it. As opposed to coaches like Kearney and others, and even Ivan at his time was kind of recluse or didn't give you a full insight. Webby tries to explain things to us as fans, but without giving away too much at the same time. So I appreciate that as a fan that I am being communicated to fairly, and I don't need to know all the ins and outs of what's happening behind the scenes. I'm sure that needs to be kept in-house. But I'm hoping that we can continue to back him and support him and help him move forward as a coach. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of Webby's journey. And let me know, do you think he's the coach to take us forward? He may not be for some. Some may be expecting results earlier. 3 years, is that a long time in an NRL coaching job? Well, not when you have to rebuild. For me, maybe 4 or 5 years down the track, we might start to be really looking at that. But the pressure, the media love him. There's no internal pressure or external pressure to get Webby sacked, as opposed to other coaches like Elliott, Evan Cappy, Bluey, Kearney. The stability that he's brought alongside the club with Robbo and Cappy and the rest, and Cam George, it seems to be we're in a good sweet spot. But we do want to take it forward. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed that. Please hit a like and subscribe to Wires Up TV. And we'll catch you later on for more Warriors news and updates. Peace.